Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Makayla, and today we are doing a little 2-for-1 video, and we are doing a reading, wrap up, and review, spoiler free, of all the books that I read in June, as well as going over the books on my July TBR. So let's get right into it. Okay, let me get all situated. Also, I got a jelly cat, the little frog, and I think he is so cute. He joined my little bookshelf. Oh my gosh, this bar's so, I'm trying to say crisscross applesauce. Okay, first we're gonna start out with discussing the 10 books that I read in June and then move on to my TBR for July. So we're gonna hop right into it because we have a lot to talk about. So, starting with my June reads, I read This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. And if you don't know what this is about, if you've been living under a rock, this has been very popular this summer. It's her new release. You're following Lucy, and her best friend is Bridget, who owns a house on Prince Edward Island, and they vacation there a lot. Well, 5 years prior, Lucy had actually slept with Bridget's brother without knowing that it was her brother. And Bridget has this rule where she can't fall in love with her brother. And it's the development of that relationship, and yeah, it was really good. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I read this when I was trying to get out of a reading slump, and it did help catapult me to get out. It was just a good, quick summer romance, and it's just the perfect vibes. If you haven't heard about it by now, I would highly recommend it. I think anyone really does recommend it. The next book I read was Hide by Kirsten White. I also read this when I was trying to get out of a little bit of a reading slump. I picked it up because I really love thriller and horror when I'm trying to get out of a reading slump, because normally they're just more fast-paced, and I feel like they're quicker reads for me. And this one fell just a little bit short for me. So you're following Mac as she enters this competition where they have to survive and play hide and seek pretty much in a abandoned amusement park for a week. And people start slowly disappearing, and they think it's part of the game because if you're the last person standing, you win a lot of money. However, weird things start happening and people start disappearing. And yeah, that's kind of the premise of what this is. And it is a supernatural horror, which I've never read before. And I just don't think it was for me. It wasn't my favorite. It might be for some people, but like I said, it just fell a little short for me. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. Okay. Next up is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I read this book when I was in middle school, and I really did like it in middle school, and I decided to pick it up and reread it, and I'm so glad I did. This book is such a nostalgic 5-star for me, as well as during my reread, I just fell in love with the story all over again. S.E. Hinton just has an amazing ability to write characters that you really care about, and just the themes in this book of found family, as well as just classes and different people's different life situations, and to never judge a book by its cover. It's just such a beautiful piece of art, and it's really short. I think it's only 180 pages, so I would highly recommend picking this back up if you haven't read it in a long time, or if you haven't read it at all. I've also been obsessed with the musical, so that probably helped play into my love for this book. Pick it up. I gave it 5 stars. Probably one of my favorite reads of the year so far. Okay, the next one's a little controversial. So I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Well, I listened to the audiobook of it. So I listened to the audiobook while I was working. I just wasn't that interested in this book, to be honest. I know this book is loved by a lot of people, and a lot of people do say the first book isn't as good as the other two, but quite frankly, if I wasn't listening to the audiobook and used an Audible credit on that book, I probably would have DNF'd it and not finished it. I don't know if I just picked it up at the wrong time. I just wasn't in the mood for this type of fantasy, but it just wasn't hitting for me, and I gave it 3 stars. I just wasn't really interested in it. Maybe at some point I will pick this series back up, but yeah, it just wasn't for me, and I know it's probably going to be controversial because a lot of people really do love this book, but yeah, I don't think it's the right time for me to read this book. Okay, the next book that I read was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, which is about Poppy and Alex. They used to go on these extravagant vacations together where they try to go as cheap as possible and take all these summerly vacations together. However, things change, and you're kind of a past-present timeline of Poppy still traveling and missing Alex in the present timeline. And you're following kind of the evolution of their love story, everything like that. Again, I was in a reading slump when I was reading this. This book didn't do it for me. I struggled to read this book. It took me about 2 weeks to read this book, which is a long time for me. I usually read books really, really fast, and yeah, I struggled to read this. I think overall, I'm probably going to give it a 4-star because I really do love Emily Henry. This wasn't my favorite Emily Henry book, but I also think I just read it at a bad time. I was in a little of a reading slump. This is a little bit of a longer, it's like almost 400 pages, I think. But yeah, I gave this 4 stars. I think I just maybe read it at a bad time, but I did enjoy it. It's a good summer romance if you are looking for one. And I would just recommend any Emily Henry book in general because her writing is just magnificent. Okay, the last physical book that I read this month was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. If you've watched any of my reading videos before, I love Ali Hazelwood, especially her STEM romances. I just eat them up every time. This book is different than her other books. She even writes an author note in the beginning talking about this is more of an erotic romance than her normal writing. So it is spicier than some of her other books. However, you still have a plot in this book, which I really, really enjoyed because I feel like some books that are erotic romances, you lose a plot and it's just straight spice, and I don't really like that in books. So I did really appreciate that this book still had a good plot, and it still was a semi-STEM-ish. It was still kind of set in the STEM field, but it wasn't focused as much on that. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's not my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. I do like her just straight STEM romances a little bit better. However, it still was a fun romance to read, and I will pick up any Ali Hazelwood book that she writes. And this Miss Girl is pumping out the book. She just announced her next book that's coming out later this year. She's already released 2 this year. Miss Ali Hazelwood is on a roll. It is crazy. Okay, now we're going to discuss the books that I read on my Kindle this month, which I love my Kindle. I would highly recommend. I've had it for like 2 months now, and I can thoroughly say I do really enjoy it. I think Kindle Unlimited is so worth it. There are so many good books that are super popular, big name books that are on Kindle Unlimited, and yeah, I would highly recommend it. That is my personal opinion. Anyways, we're moving on. Okay, the first book that I read on my Kindle this month was Hooked by Emily McGintrey, I think that's her name, and it is a retelling of Peter Pan, and it's considered a dark romance, and it was my first ever book by her and kind of my first dark romance-esque book, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I thought it was good. It was kind of a quick, easy romance read for me. I don't think I'm gonna read any of the other books that's kind of in that like interconnected series where it's like fairy tale retellings. I don't think I'm gonna read another one, but I did kind of enjoy my time while I read that specific one. Now, the next 3 books that I read on my Kindle, and this is kind of the last 3 books that I read this month, are all connected. They're all in the same series. So I started the Addicted Calloway Sisters series, which it is all on Kindle Unlimited, so that's a plus. Anyways, I started that series and I read the first 3 books, and the first 3 books are following Lily, and the whole series in general you're following the Calloway sisters, and the first 3 books you're following one of the sisters named Lily, and she's an addict, and one of her friends is also an addict, and they like enable each other. You're following their storyline. I don't really want to talk about too much into it because I don't know how to talk about it without like giving spoilers. So the first book is Addicted to You. I give it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was a little skeptical. It took me a second to get into the book, but once I was in it, I was hooked on the storyline, and I didn't know if I was gonna like it just because of some of the like stuff that was in it, but I did really enjoy it, and I'm hooked on the series, and I can't wait to keep reading it. So the second book is called Ricochet, which I gave this one 4 stars, only because I felt like not that much happened in the book in comparison to like the first book. It just felt a lot slower and like not as much was happening, but I still did enjoy it. And then the third book is Addicted for Now. I also gave that 4.5 stars. So good. I love this story. I can't wait to keep reading it, and I would recommend it for anyone. So, like I said, they're all on Kindle Unlimited. So, go get a Kindle and get Kindle Unlimited. It is so worth it. Anyways, I digress. Okay, we are now going to move on to my July TBR, which it is a little ambitious. However, I am taking a week-long beach vacation, and I plan to just read on the beach every single day, almost all day. So I do expect myself to read quite a bit this month, and I've just been in such a great reading mood and vibe that we're flying through books, and it is so great. So let's get on to our July TBR. Starting out strong with the Powerless series. So I'm actually almost done with the Powerless audiobook. I was doing a reread of Powerless, and let me say, to start out, the audiobook is absolutely chef's kiss. It just heightens the story that much more, and the voice actor for Kai, he's just lovely. It makes the story so much better. So if you are skeptical about audiobooks and you want one to try, do the Powerless audiobook. It's also pretty long. I think it's like a 17-hour long audiobook, but it is so worth it. It is so good. I've been listening on Audible. I have been listening on Audible, and I love it. I listened to it on 1.2 speed, and I just feel like audiobooks, when it's a dual POV book, when they have different voices voicing the different characters, it just heightens the book that much more, and it's so great. So I'm rereading Powerless, and then I want to read Powerful, hopefully tonight into tomorrow, because Reckless comes out tomorrow, which that is also on my July TBR. I obviously don't have a physical copy yet because it doesn't come out until tomorrow, but you best bet I'm going to Barnes & Noble's tomorrow and picking it up. So I say this is on my July TBR. I have like an hour left in the audiobook, so this will be finished oh my god. These 9-hour work days are like draining my brain. Okay, so I only have an hour left in this audiobook, so I'm pretty much done with Powerless. And then I do want to read Powerful. I have not read this yet, so I do want to read it before Reckless. I know you don't technically have to read it since it is a novella before Reckless, but I do want to read it to get the full experience, and I'm so excited for Reckless. So these are like kind of my top 3 reads at the moment. Another book that I want to read this month is The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand. I have not read an Ellen Hildebrand book before, but this one just sounded perfect for me because it's summery, beachy, but it's also like a mystery, murder mystery, and I think it's right up my alley. A lot of people really love this author and her book, so I'm so excited to try this out. And this is one of those that I think I'm gonna bring with me to the beach vacation, because I think it's perfect and I think it's going to be so good to read, and I'm so excited to read this. And hopefully I like this author because she has so many books, and if I like this author, that just unlocks a whole new set of books for me to read, and I'm so excited. Yeah. Another book that I'm so excited for is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I love like STEM romances and kind of like academia set books. Granted, I am an engineering major, so I feel like that probably plays into it, but obviously this is a very well-known and renowned book, so I'm so excited to finally read it. I've been putting it off. Honestly, I don't know why I've been putting it off, but I finally pulled the plug and bought it because I've just been in the mood for like a STEM academia romance, not romance, but just like a book in general, and I think this is going to be perfect, and I'm so excited to read it. Next up is The Retreat by Sarah Pierce. This is another like thriller, murder, mystery type book, and I'm really excited because I have been reading so much romance recently that I've been in the mood for thriller and mysteries because I just eat them up, and they're just the perfect breakup in between reading a bunch of romances, and I'm super excited. I actually thrifted this book, so I don't really know completely what it's about, but I know it is like a murder mystery, I'm pretty sure, and I'm really excited to read this one. So another one, I'm actually currently reading this right now, and it's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This was my favorite book up until like a year ago when I started reading for leisure and for fun. I read this in high school as an assigned reading, and it was one of the only books that I really liked reading that we had to read. So I decided, I actually got this special edition like before I actually started getting into reading and buying a lot of books. And yeah, I'm so excited to reread this and see if I love it as much as I did when I first read it in high school as an assigned reading, and to see how it compares to some of my favorite reads now. I've obviously read a lot more books since I have read this, and I feel like my tastes and likes have evolved. So I'm curious to see how my opinions of this book have also evolved. Like I said, I'm currently like 50-60 pages into this book already, and I think I'm just gonna slowly read this because I feel like it is a little bit of a slower book just because it is written in a much more kind of difficult way, because it is set in like an older time period with like harder dialects to read. So I'm excited to reread this, and like I said, I think I'm just gonna space this out in between other Where's that? That scared me. He scared me. I don't even know what he's barking at. There's nothing out there. Anyways, hopefully he doesn't bark again. I'm kind of scared. Yeah, so that's another one that I'm currently reading. Now, rounding out my July TBR, I want to finish the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. Probably not finish. I think I have like 6 more books. So I want to continue the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I don't know how many books I'll read, but I am bringing my Kindle on vacation, and I feel like I definitely will probably read quite a bit on my Kindle while there, because I'm flying there, so I can't take too many physical books with me just out of not having enough space. So I will probably do a majority of my reading on my Kindle during that vacation, so that's probably going to be a really good time for me to read a lot of that series. So I'm super excited to continue it. Okay guys, so that was my June reading wrap up and review, as well as my July TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you like, comment, subscribe, like all the YouTube things, and I will see you guys in another video, and happy reading. Okay, bye.